Correct.
And so I think that, when people look at TV hunters, they look at there's a mentality that, man, it comes really easy for them.
A misconception.
There's
perhaps.
a misconception, and I can tell you that there have been so many hunts that I've just totally blown, and because it's not a kill, maybe it's not put on television because it doesn't make for a good episode, or maybe we go back and kill that deer later in the season. We don't have all that time to tell that 4-month story on a whitetail.
And possibly it was either me, David, or your dad had a successful hunt, so you don't put an unsuccessful hunt because you feel like you had a successful hunt
That's right.
that overshadowed. It's not that you was protecting you as a personality
Sure.
over on a miss or a misadventure.
That's right. Realtree is about monster bucks. When people think of Realtree, they think about those DVD days, the early days of seeing big deer die all the time. Well, now a big deer, I don't want to say it's nothing, but they're big deer being shot all over the place now.
Yeah.
So it's not earth-shattering when you see somebody do it. And so I think that's where you've had shows like The Hunting Public and Seek One and some of these other digital shows where it's really a long-form storytelling, and it's more semi-live to where you're watching it happen almost in real time. And so I think that could be something we do a little bit of a better job of, I think it kind of discourages people, or it did for a long time, somebody that would watch a television show, man, that's not obtainable for me. But then you have all these other shows out there now that are, which I think this is a good thing, that kind of cater to so many different types of hunters out there, because everybody does it different. So I think that's a good thing. What's your opinion?
I agree with you, and hunting in this culture has to somewhat bring a better unity. We certainly have a lot of unity, and a lot of times I think the unity in the hunting industry can be very two-faced, meaning in personalities and celebrating one another. Sometimes, people say one thing, but their actions prove another. And so I definitely think that, from my perspective, as I pose a question to you, is I definitely see that always the guy that's like, well, you ain't even a man. You're a punk sissy. It wasn't a DIY, or yeah, but do it on public ground or whatever. And so if you look at where we at now, we can celebrate a little bit of everything. When I look back in the history of Realtree, a lot of unknown, a lot of the places that me and your dad and David hunted, and even the celebrities like Earnhardt, it was on public ground. We didn't share it. You know why? Because it's open to the public, dummy. It's open to the public. If we tell you is that, the public can come. It wasn't all private.
Right.
And so with that, we never celebrated that. We didn't have a chest to beat. We were selfish hunters. And so why would I celebrate some public unit in New Mexico or Arizona when I wanted to greedily hunt it? So my point is now that's celebrated. So we were called all these things now that culture would cancel you because of it. And so looking back now, that's being celebrated. So sometimes of what's hot now, Realtree and us as personalities, we protected ourselves out of, let's face it, I would say sheer greed. I remember specifically a place in Iowa that was a tract of public ground, and we drew tags in this area. And Greg Miller, David Blanton didn't have a tag that year, but your dad, every time we went to this one CRP that was well over the line into this public area that we found, it was insane. And I remember the biggest fear we had, social media wasn't around, was like, oh my God, I hope nobody finds a spot. Well, guess what? Now there's shows and episodes, digital and both on network television, that are kind of talking about public land hunting. And so somehow there's this mystique, because you hunt on the public, that you're tougher than somebody who hunts on the farm that I bought that's 500 acres, or maybe the farm that you and your dad own. And so with that, it just drives me crazy, and actually just makes me want to go ape crap. Because in my personal opinion it's about, like you said, it's about just get out there and do something. There is no wild animal that's easy to hunt. And for me, my confidence, call it even confidence or even arrogance, I have no problem hunting turkey or deer on public or freaking private in a high fence or wherever. I don't care. I consider myself a cold-blooded killer. I will figure it out, because my greed of that morning I got up at daylight and left my hot wife, I want to be successful.
Yeah.
I'm not going just to see a campfire and like, oh, man, hey, let me tell you this joke, Tyler. I mean, my wife calls me the turkey Nazi. So if I'm going public or private, my job is to not just kill a turkey, but I want to kill as many turkeys as that state legally allow me to do and how many I can kill that day. And if you never hunted with me, then you'll realize that. So for me, public and private, there is a separation. One can be tougher, both can be hard. Sometimes either one can be easy, but I think that's what I think is a problem in the industry. Everybody's trying to beat their chest and prove how much better you are than me or I am with you, and therefore I don't believe in the stance professional hunter. I believe you're either hunter, you learn to be successful, and success can be found at every different level, big, small,
I agree.
the adventure or whatever. So that's my opinion.
I agree. I agree with that. And I have friends, out there like in Mississippi that I met when I was in college that, they hunt public land, but some of them, because of this new content that's come out, I don't believe it's anybody's fault, but, because I think the public land stuff is awesome. I watch all of it. I consume so much hunting content on YouTube, and I think it's all great. I think it's so cool because it caters to a little bit of everybody. It's not just people on television hunting, maybe outfitters or a really nice lease or their dad's farm. I think it's cool that you can you go to YouTube right now, any kind of hunting that you do, whether it be in a neighborhood or 10-acre property, it's all right there, and it's available to you. And I think that's a positive thing, and I hate that's been viewed as negative. But like my friend in Mississippi, he's like, man, I got access to go hunt. He met some guy out there. It's a private farm, and he's like, man, I've been hunting, public out there. I feel a little like I'm cheating, feel a little bad. And I was like, man, that's awesome. I mean, you shouldn't feel bad about that, and I think, but I don't know where he got that from.
I can tell you.
He's friends with me, and I hunt private land.
Shame on society and the culture of the outdoors that has put that shame on us, no different than your friend afraid to post a 125-inch deer or to say that it happened easy. Somehow we have gotten to this place in the outdoor culture that if you can't run 10 miles and you don't look like Lex Luger and and if you eat fudge rounds and you're just not a person that's not serious and you hunted a farm, because when in reality there shouldn't be a measuring contest of what it took to be successful. Sometimes it's just going and it might be a little sip of Evans Williams in the evening, cigar around the campfire, and all you did to be successful that day was sit on the dove bucket and shoot 2 boxes of shell and kill 7 dove. But man, the experience you had with that uncle, man, that experience you had with that college buddy you ain't seen in 4 years. So I think that's what's missing. Everybody's got this place that they're trying to prove something to themselves. So I think right now, if we're not careful, the hunting industry, the number one marketing scheme is based off insecurity and the male ego. And if you do that, try to pick up a chick when you're cocky, insecure, and you think you're the best and you're beating your chest.
Right.
The little chubby fat guy out there dancing and full of life and having fun will attract all the chicks. The good-looking macho man over there that's insecure, the women run from him. And so how do we get women into this sport, which we got a lot now, but if you're marketing on insecurity? So I think this stance of insecurity of saying, it possibly was easy because I hunted this farm, and I hunted 2 days and I had success. That can be found in public possibly too.
I hate it. I know some
hunting
people,
is a lot of strategic luck anyway. People don't want to admit that. It's strategic luck.
It is. And you talk about some of the girls in this industry. I mean, I worry about my sister just turned 15 years old, and as mean as people can be on there, I worry, I want her to get in the outdoors. I want her to get involved because I can tell you my dad, and just like you, worked really hard to have the farm he's got up here in Georgia.
Yes.
And if I could trade, I would give it all up if I could just hunt here. I love shooting a deer here, having a successful hunt. It doesn't have to be the biggest deer. And my best memories, although I had a great year last year, and I don't have to worry about the public coming in there and getting on our hunting area, but I love being with my brother and my sister.
You live in Georgia. Yes, you do. Yeah. I got a cousin named Bubba that probably knows your place better than you.
But I love sitting.
No offense, Bubba.
But I love sitting in a blind with them and sitting in the woods with them. And and you know this, it's hard hunting. We went. My sister shot 2 deer last year, but my brother sat in there more than she did. Didn't have an opportunity. Didn't really come close to a deer. It didn't play out for him. But the best memories I had was sitting in there with those kids. And so I worry about somebody like my sister who was maybe in a little bit of the same light as me. She probably won't get it as bad as me, just with, kind of media today, hunting content, being consumed so many different ways. But I don't want her to ever get discouraged by some of her friends or people on the internet, because I can tell you there is she is so passionate and willing to learn, willing to read stuff about hunting and learning, wants to get into shooting her bow. But then I meet some people, women in this industry that are on Instagram trying to get into hunting, but I've talked to a few of them, and I don't know if they're just 100% in or not, but they feel torn down by the public.
Yeah.
By some of the comments they read, and that breaks my heart a little bit, because I think for some of them, and some of them may have ulterior motives, but I don't know that. But some of them, I think, really wanted to get involved and learn how to do it, and they've been ripped apart so much that they've kind of given up on it, and that is huge. That's a big problem.
Well, a lot of that, I will say, and no pun intended, but whether we're men or women, we have to just pretty much grow some balls and go forward, because this culture we live in now is the hardest I've ever seen. Your dad and I didn't have to worry about social media. I do now. Your dad does now.
Yeah.
You've grown up in the fact that all through your life, the major part of your life, you've seen this social media. And so people have to somehow dig deep and find security in what they truly love. And sometimes I'd say all the time, fun is something that is a privilege to have. But fun is what we all strive to have, whether it's a cookout on opening college game day, and Daniel Thomas, who likes to cook, bringing the best Boston butt that he cooked on his grill, and maybe I'm bringing the chili and a joke book, and man, I'm gonna have some stories, and so in that, I think hunting falls into this category that is different than extreme sports. It's different than what Tom Brady proved. If you look at our industry, yes, you have some celebrated archers, you have some celebrated successful hunters, you have some celebrated turkey callers that have ability to do things that's almost inhumane at times. I had a chance to MC the Grand National Turkey Calling Contest, and I'm telling you, every time I hear them guys call, I'm like, thank God I'm retired. It's insane how good they sound. I'm like, I'm like literally wanting to, like, let me see your call, dude. Let me see your call. I want to see what you're blowing. I want to see this the way this is cut, and let me hear it up close. And I'm so intrigued because I love that, and that was what I got my break in the industry with. But overall, hunting can be easy. It can be difficult, but the beauty of it is, black, white, rich, poor, fat, skinny, anybody can step into it, young or old, and find success. My son, who's 4, got him a doe this year with a 223.
Awesome.
He's 4 years old. Was it super hard? We hunted for 2 days, and eventually a doe come out that he got squared up on, and he shot it. And he was so excited. Was it easy? Was it hard? Does it matter? It was legal. Now this kid is like, Dad, I want to go hunting. I want to go run the trap line. I want to go out there. Are you going to Realtree today? And he's 4.
4.
We're having a little rodent roundup, this coming Monday, and he has asked me a million times, because he's playing T-ball with Daniel Thomas's little girl, Emmy, and he's like, Dad, is Emmy coming on our rodent rounded up? Is she coming? She's coming because I'm going to show her, I can shoot the coyote, and he's just, we're going to get some squirrels, and are we going to have hunting hounds, and is Emmy coming, and do we got T-ball practice, or are we going hunting? Can we not go to T-ball practice if we go on a rodent rounded up? And I'm thinking, thank God I'm living in a place to where he's not thinking of it hard. He's thinking, I'm going to hang out with Emmy, who's a great friend of his. He's going to hang out with Dad. He's already begging to make sure that, we're supposed to be, because I think you're on Daniel's team on this rodent roundup. But he's so worried that, Dad, is my friend Emmy going to be on my team?
Yeah.
And so my point is, it's not about who wins or loses. It's about, we got these kids out there hunting. So sometimes I think, gear it down, hunting industry, and realize that this is not about our achievements, and it's not about beating your chest. Certainly we should be proud, whether it's public or private. Just gear it down and have fun. What is it that makes you have fun? Is it a brim bed and a box of crickets and throwing everyone back? Or is it catching 10 brim, and before you can get them out of the lake, you catch and release and throw them back in Lake Crisco because you're going to have a fish fry that night.
Yeah.
And you're going to call some friends. Is it fun to go fishing because you just want to see what it's like to catch a catfish and maybe a largemouth bass? Or do you want to fish and see what your biggest 5-fish limit is and start competing in bass tournaments? So I think machoism is the worst part of a male ego, and we all have it. And us men have tremendous egos, and sometimes it engulfs the hunting industry, and I think it sets us back.
Yeah, I'm just not one to really get jealous or get like,
Neither am I.
or not really. I seriously do. I just love this industry so much, and I love what we do, and I hope I can pass it down to my kids, and I hope my brother and sister can carry it on. And so I worry about it from that standpoint. I saw how I used to really worry about it when I was 13, 14, 15, that age range, when I see people on social media, when I first started having Facebook and stuff, or MySpace, and people would, say some nasty stuff about, being spoiled, being a rich kid. And I'm like, man, and I think that's kind of when it hit me. You brought it up, have I ever thought about doing something else? For a short period of time, that may have led me, thinking that way of doing something else, because I was like, man, maybe people are right. I beat myself up and listen to some of that, but I'm like, and then I kind of came back around to it, and I was like, man, I love this company. I love this industry. I love hunting. I'm not going to worry about what other people say, because I was only home 6 days between October and November this past year. I wouldn't be doing that if I didn't really love doing it.
I'm wanting to come over and give you a man hug, by the way. I'm wanting to come squeeze you like your dad did when you killed your first turkey.
Yeah.
Tyler, do you think that's because you get more confidence in yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I think as I've gotten older, I'm a little bit more secure. I think I've always lacked a little bit of I think when I went off to college, it was the best thing for me, but I lacked a little bit of confidence, security, because I always did have a big shadow here. And that's why Mom, we had some conversations. He was like, go to school, like go figure out who you are a little bit. See if this is what you really, really want. Do some self-evaluating and just learn yourself. And that's really helped me, and I feel more confident stepping every day into this building. And I think the people around me see that I'm willing to put the time in, work. And so, yeah, I have a belief in myself that I maybe didn't have maybe even up to 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of come around, and I hope people can see that I genuinely care about this sport and this company, and I hope we can make an impact for years.
And with that,
to come.
let me take you there. So obviously you Ole Miss, you graduated Ole Miss, hotty toddy all the way. And you and your dad are both involved in the school, and it's been awesome. I've been to Oxford a lot, but let me just try this on, because you got Tyler Jordan, who the son of Bill Jordan. Tyler Jordan, who now, let's face it, creatively, you're a big part of leading all of us, including myself, of where we going next. I think, like my time when I was in my 20s, a lot of people were looking like, what are you doing, Waddell? What are we going to do? And I remember looking back, I had them little bow tournaments that I kind of helped come up with. Like, man, why don't we shoot a bows? Because people didn't know how much, trash that me, David, and Bill talked when we'd be at hunt camp shooting our bows. And so that become kind of a fun, really just unassuming, fun brotherhood type of vibe. So what do you tell people now that you got your confidence? You're in Jackson, Mississippi, and you got your Ole Miss hat on. It's a Realtree hat, and you got on your road trip shirt. And some person your age comes up. He's done had a few too many to drink, and he sees you out, and he says, there it is, Tyler Jordan, old rich kid, old hoity-toity, hey, whatever. You ain't even hunting. You hunting a farm. It's easy and all this stuff, and all you trying to do is host Realtree road trips. That was Waddell's show. You'll never be the hunter your daddy is or Waddell. What do you tell him? Honestly, like I said, this is Realtree's podcast, but I want you to take that, internalize it, get pissed off, get aggravated. What do you tell that guy?
See, I'm not. I wouldn't get pissed off, but I would be like, well, first, you're right. I've been really lucky. I've obviously grown up in a very fortunate situation. But I would tell them I put a lot of pressure on myself. It's not like I live every day just thinking I have it all made, because I think if anything, I have a really big challenge, ahead of me. I feel the pressure. I leave this office every single day, not just for hunting, but to carry on this company another, hopefully 20, 30 years, when Dad's gone, or, but that I genuinely, I wouldn't do this if I didn't really care about it and love it. And, if it wasn't for that, then, I wouldn't be here. But this is something that I love to do. And I'm doing road trips, and we're doing this digital, but I spend most of my fall every single day away from my family, my fiance, in the woods, and sharing it also not just with Dad, but now seeing my brother and sister, their excitement and getting them introduced in the outdoors, and hopefully they're going to do the same thing when they get older in my age. But that I would just say I wouldn't do this unless I really love it, and I do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be willing to travel most of half the year.
Right.
So that would.
Well, Tyler,
that would be
even
my
the way you're
answer.
answering that question was proven to me. Call it Big Brother over here. A lot of times people aren't going to ask you that question as direct, but your answers are proving that you are a leader and you do have a level head. That's one thing growing up. Realistically, I was in my teens and you was little. You've always had such a level head, and but yet at the same time, I knew that some of this criticism would get to you. It would tear you down and hurt you. But I know your humbleness. But yet now, as you gain in your confidence, I can tell you, I feel very good about where Realtree's at and what you can do and bring to the table. And it all derives from that humbleness. And yet, as you gain that confidence, I've got a lot to even learn from you, because to be honest with you, if you pose the same question to me, well, I can promise you I would have probably approached that situation different, because I have been, basically nearly in fights over accusations, because not just on me, but on my Realtree family. There was one in particular. I remember Realtree did a sweepstakes to where went a hunt with Tyler and Bill on Realtree Farms.
Yeah. And
man, I was just appalled. Not 90%, but 90% of all these were positive. But you had this 10 to 15% of people like no desire to go hunt a deer farm, no desire to hunt a high fence,
right.
Not knowing, completely out of ignorance, didn't have a clue. And I got so pissed that I'm in a deer stand reading this. And I just go Facebook Live and go on a rant and basically give people my address and like, if you want some, can get you some. I still got that blue collar, just ready to brawl mentality when it comes to my team, and not just my team at Realtree, this hunting industry and the culture. Now, with that, there's a lot of flaws. I stay pissed off at the hunting industry. I'm not even a huge fan. Like you talk about the hunting industry, I'm not a big fan of the hunting industry. I sometimes think we're lackluster. Sometimes I think we don't do what's should be done. We don't say what should be said. We don't represent and fight for the things that should be represented when it comes to the blue-collar man. That has nothing to do with public or private or high fence or free roaming. It has to do with how hard that these families and these personalities, men or women, work when you're trying to wade through T-ball practice and you wade through, like Daniel was the other day, mating with the septic tank man. He still wants to turkey hunt. He's got a wife that wants to go on a romantic dinner with him.
Yeah.
He's still got a kid that's like, hey, Dad, I know you went to T-ball, would you throw ball with me, and can we go shoot basketball? Deep down, I'm calling him, say, hey, y'all want to go hunt dove, or let's go run a trap line. So that little bit of Saturday and Sunday or that evening, not only do you have the public criticism if he did it on private or he did it a certain way, you also got personal finances, personal relationships. That wife is like, well, I guess waddell and hunting means more to you than me, and you're just going to go hunting, and we ain't even been. It's Valentine's Day, and like most of us men, we forgot. It's anniversary, it's your kid's birthday, it's your daughter's dance recital. So a time that you spend in the woods is valuable. And then, God forbid, you get a chance to escape that. And it is me, it is you, it is the guy who is a construction worker. He maybe hangs sheetrock. He's running a bull float on a concrete job, and he slips off and gets to the hunting lease. Then he goes shoots that 110-inch buck that, by the way, is 2-3 years old. He's on cloud nine. The Hoyt performed perfect. He pulled up his Bushnell binoculars, as we say on Bone Collector or road trips. He ranged him perfectly with the arc. He knew that he was 42 yards, even though it said 47. Perfect shot. He bought the G5 broadheads, which, by the way, he paid grossly what he thought was too much, but in this moment, it was perfect. The deer run, Bill, good shot. He didn't go far, and he didn't. He fell dead on camera. He's on cloud nine. His wife's texting him, are you out of the woods yet? I'm mad because you're not at the recital, but it don't matter because he's got this buck on the ground. He's by himself. He walks out there. The cool, crisp autumn breeze is on his face. He yets out a Tarzan yell, and this is why he spent all this money and $1,800 on a bow. That's why he's got $1,000 in the hunting lease. That's why he put mud grips and buckshot mudders on his freaking Chevy, and it feels good. Only to get that deer in the camp, he rides back, and some jackass says, why did you shoot Bambi? This deer I let walk 2 times in a row. Needless to say, in this celebration that turns into not a celebration, the wife's calling him like, hey, well, you missed Sarah's, recital. Hope you had fun hunting with your friends. Well, now his friends have turned on him. So this is what this guy does. He drives back. He's like, I'm selling my Realtree.
Yeah.
I need to sell this bow. I need to get out of this hunting lease. That right there, I just cleaned up about $6,000. That'd be enough to buy a pontoon boat and go to Lake Hardin and go skiing. My wife won't be on my butt, and this just ain't fun no more. The industry's failed to recognize that. The macho man who's talking about DIY, the people who's talking about, look at this monster I killed, they fail to recognize the person who's buying our products and our license. So with that, I do get aggravated in the industry. But I will say, as you was talking about your response, that's why my response is so raw, and it's raw on this podcast. I want this podcast to be real. If we offended a few people, you know what? Go take an Advil. It's a year of COVID, and get the hell over it. And we're going to go forward, and we're going to talk about real issues. And so when it gets to hunting, I'm like you. I passionately love it. It saved my life, Tyler. I've been through some tough times, loss of loved ones. I made some dumb mistakes in life to where I was beating up on myself. And if it wasn't for the sanctuary of 20 foot high in a tree stand or a goblin turkey and I having a chance to get through that,
God, that's so true.
it was therapeutic.
It's therapeutic.
And the last thing I needed in that was some macho man that I feel like ain't half the hunter that half of these people he's criticizing my day and where I hunted and what I shot and what I did and the way I did it, whether it was with a decoy and I reaped him or whatever. And even speaking on that, I get tired of somebody like a turkey reapers who's talking about, well, I created this and everybody's copying my ways. If that is the case, well, jackass too, because look at this. That is our job. Tom Brady is probably one day going to have a clinic and told people, here's what I did. Here's how I studied. Your kid can sign up. I want to teach people this. My job, I want to teach people new technique. So if you